back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Connor Williams, joined by Owen Parks, and we'll be discussing what's wrong with Everton's defence this season. Owen, looking at the stats, I think we've conceded 46 goals in the Premier League. Why don't you start us off? Where do you think the fundamentals are in our defence and what's wrong with it?
I think a part of the issue is the fact that Yerry Mina has been injured all season. I don't think we've had him on the pitch 4 times or 5 times this season. He is comfortably our best defender, and if he was a sharp, sort of ready, if he wasn't injury prone, quite harsh. But if he didn't suffer from injuries in the way he does, then he wouldn't be at Everton. He would probably still be at Barcelona because he's a really good defender. But the issue we've had is we haven't had him on the pitch all season. And so that's hampered it. I think Ben Godfrey, he struggled at the start. And he hasn't, I don't think he's been good this season, even when he has played, if I'm being honest. I think his best performances have come at left back this season, the odd time he's played there. Mason Holgate, I'm not convinced by Mason Holgate, and unless he's playing right back in an extremely sort of reactive setup where he isn't allowed to go forwards and he just does the basics, I don't see much use for him. Michael Keane plays every week because he's ready every week and he's available and he's fit every week. He doesn't suffer injuries. I think Michael Keane's a system player, and I think if you have Michael Keane defending a bit deeper and simplifying the game, Michael Keane isn't all that bad, I think. But when you're asking him to do things he can't do, or something goes against him, he is arguably one of the worst centre backs in the league because he's got no confidence. He's the reason why Michael Keane's not a great or even good defender is mentality. His mentality is really poor, and I don't think he'll ever get that sort of winning mentality to put together a run or a season consistently where he's reliable. And so that's the situation we're in with centre backs. I think full backs, we've suffered there all season. We've suffered there for a number of years, to be honest, in terms of having our full backs fit or not getting sold or not down on tools, and it's been a regular issue for us. And Rafa Benitez was brought in to help continue the solid foundations we had in terms of good defending, keep clean sheets, don't give much away, and he did the exact opposite. And Frank Lampard seems to think we're 1998 Man United, where we can just play on the halfway line every week and not concede goals. So they're the issues we've got. It seems to be that it's a perfect storm of everything that's contributed it. But I think last season, Everton conceded in the whole season 48 goals, and 5 of them were in the last game of the season. So it showed that pretty much the same centre backs, kind of different full backs but different manager is. So you could say that the reason why we're not as solid as the dugout.
I was about to say, do you think there is any way Frank Lampard's style of play suits our current back four?
No.
No, even if he goes to a 5?
No, because Michael Keane's never been good in a 5, and he's the only one who's fit. He doesn't have the sort of, how to put it, the precision to play in the 5. He's used to playing with a bank of 4 in front of him and 4 defenders next to him. He's not a back 5 defender. Mason Holgate, yeah, maybe. But then who's the other centre back? Branthwaite. Well, I'm not being sort of cruel here, but if we're relying on a lad who was playing in the Championship last season, we're going to be struggling. Godfrey maybe, but then he's always a week away from an injury. I don't think we've got the personnel nor the we haven't got the personnel to play five at the back, and and if we're going to play five at the back, we're going to need two wing backs, and Mikalenko and Patterson don't get a look in. So I don't see any way of being able to do that.
Obviously, you mentioned the Championship in Brantford. Jamie Carragher was quite scathing in his review of our back four and said it's a Championship defence, and then went as far as to say it's probably an insult to Championship teams. You agree with that? That the back four against Tottenham will go with take out Yerry Mina and Ben Godfrey, and that. Do you think that is a Championship back four?
Yeah, probably, but okay, John Joe Kenny didn't play last season, but three of those defenders who were in the team on Monday night played a lot of games for Everton last season, in a season where they only conceded 48 goals, so they weren't Championship defenders then, or were they? I don't know. But no, I do think that. Look, we've talked about them all, and they have got the limitations, they have got the flaws, but we're talking about the defence after a game where we're talking about the Dad's Army defence, as I called it, playing on the half. They've got no pace, and yeah, they're always going to struggle defending in space, and without that simplified approach to defending, they're always going to struggle. So unless you're going to, that's why I was arguing in the January window, we should have been buying defenders or a defensive midfielder who can help us, because I don't think there was ever an issue with this team maybe creating chances, maybe scoring goals. I don't think that was the issue. I think the issue has been all season defensively, and that's why we're talking about it now. So yeah, I don't see where the rush was to sign Dele Alli on deadline day at all, and why we couldn't have bought some defenders, because it's your defence is what will keep you in the Premier League. We're not going to. We've showed in the away games lately all season that we're not creating chances away from home, but we might, if we have a bit of savviness about us, get a point, and that doesn't seem likely at the moment when you can see in 5 or 3 or 2 goals every single game, and we've been tighter at home, but we played Leeds and we played Brentford, and Villa we only conceded the one in City. But you're always going to be, mostly when you've got the fans, we have a bit more productive at home.
Obviously, we've mentioned the back four. What are your thoughts on Jordan Pickford this season? Obviously, I know he made that one mistake against Tottenham. But what are your overall thoughts of him this season?
Yeah, he's been excellent. I think I questioned Jordan Pickford, I think, in the run-up to the derby last season in Anfield. And I think from that moment on, he's been excellent. I think people realise with a goalkeeper that they don't peak and decline in the same way as an outfield player does. So the criticism of Jordan Pickford was, in hindsight, slightly unfair, as he hadn't really hit his level of consistency at his peak. And I think he's in that at the moment. He's a good goalie. I think the stuff about his height is ridiculous. It's just absolute nonsense. I think there's a lot. Ederson's not massive, and people don't level him with the same stuff. It's ridiculous. I think, yeah, he made a mistake, but goalies are always going to make mistakes. But Jordan Pickford has saved us a lot more points than he's lost us this season. So he's in the plus column, definitely.
Do you think it's a bit of just maturity as well, when you think back at how often his head used to go? The Newcastle games always ring a bell for me, of the fans getting on him and his head going. Do you think it's a bit of he's matured? I know there were rumours that he'd seen a sports psychiatrist as well that helped him a little bit. So yeah.
It's experience of the team, the club, the Premier League. I think people forget he came to Everton on the back of just one season in the Premier League at Sunderland, where he was getting pelted with shots every week. And so the early criticism of him was, in hindsight, ridiculous, because you wouldn't have expected if he'd come for nothing and he was on the bench for a year and he come in, he wouldn't have got the same level of stick. I think he had a great World Cup to my memory, and then since then they had a dodgy couple of years, but it's life in the Premier League. I think he's doing really well, and I think he has done for well over a year now. I think, trust me, when we talk about Everton's team, the least of my worries is Jordan Pickford.
I completely agree with that, mate. I think he's kept us in a lot of games. Obviously, you mentioned about Lampard's sort of style of play and our back four. I'm going to assume then you'd be open to shipping a couple of these players out in the summer.
Yeah, I think we'll have to if we're in a different division. If we're in the Championship, I imagine a lot of the players will leave. If we're in the Premier League, I think it's difficult because we talk about a reset, but people are going to have to take these players on, and it is difficult. But I think that the priority is staying in the Premier League, and I don't know. I think we'll probably need a 2 or 3 defenders, not just centre backs, full backs in the summer to be able to have a full season where we don't get injuries and we have a consistent level of performance amongst our defenders. But like I said, you have to look at this defence, and then if your solution is to play a high line and chase Tottenham all over the pitch and chase Southampton and chase Newcastle all over the pitch, then you possibly need to rethink.
So, who would you say should probably go this summer if we can say now in an ideal world they're easily sellable?
I would talk to Michael Keane about finding a different club for him. I would sell. I would reluctantly, but with the best will in the world, look to sell Yerry Mina. And I would also look for a club for Mason Holgate, and I wouldn't renew John Joe Kenny's deal.
No problem. You say Yerry Mina, is that purely just because of his injuries?
It is, yeah. I think we can't be. The problem we've got when Yerry Mina's in our squad is we're always looking to him to come in, and everyone else is far below the standards. And he needs to go to somewhere else for the best will for him and for a new start. And for us, we need to recoup some money and buy defenders who are not. They won't be probably better than Yerry Mina, but they might be more reliable in terms of getting them on the pitch. I'll always have full admiration for him, but I think it'd be better to move him on. I think Michael Keane the same, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're stuck for him for a while longer. And I would also look to move Holgate on again for him because he needs to be in a situation at a club. Maybe we might be in the Championship, but we're in the Premier League, a Championship club or another Premier League team where he will get minutes in the same position every week. I'll keep Godfrey and I'll keep Branthwaite as a backup for Branthwaite and buy a couple of centre backs, maybe one permanent, one loan, and have that as your sort of defensive sort of access for next season. But like I said, I won't be surprised if the Euro's still there. It's just what I would be open to. I wouldn't sell Godfrey, but the rest of them I would be open to offers for.
Obviously, you mentioned John Joe Kenny. You said you wouldn't renew. You will have. I think you did see, because I think I saw you tweet about it. The poll the Toffee Blues did, where it was asking the fans, would we re-sign John Joe Kenny's contract? If I'm not mistaken, I don't know the number off by heart, but I think it was like 66% said yes. Has his left back performance done anything to change your mind, or do you still think?
No. I mean, Everton fans have come up with a lot of bright ideas in recent years, and not all of them have been very good. So I would use my own judgment and the judgments of a lot of people that it would be best for John Joe Kenny to find a club again where he's settled and he's playing every week again for him. And he isn't, in my opinion, good enough to be at the level Everton needs to be at for next season. and he'll probably give her a go for the upcoming games we've gone. He doesn't shy away from a bit of effort, but quality-wise and discipline and that sort of edge you've got to have in the Premier League, he hasn't got it.
Obviously, we spoke about John Joe. By the way, I agree. I think if you'd asked that before his Leeds game, it'd have been the other way. 66 would have said get rid of it.
Yeah, it's football fans that they blow with the wind, and it's football, it's life, it's form, and whatever.
I fully believe. I'm like, if it wasn't for the Leeds game, we wouldn't even be talking about people saying they'd accept him. He'd be one of the first ones on the list. And what would you do about Seamus Coleman? He's obviously been spoken about quite a lot in the last couple of years.
I wouldn't sell him. I wouldn't start him either, but I don't see what much benefit it would do for him to move to another club now. And if Nathan Patterson's in and around the team, and we have a new right back maybe in the summer, and then he's your fair choice. And if we're playing different systems, he can fill in if needs be. A bit like what Tony Abbott or Phil Neville were in the last years. They don't play, but they're in and around if you need in the experience and the leadership and the empty words on a Monday, but we'll need them for all that. So yeah, I'd keep him around, but he wouldn't be starting no more than 5 games next season for me.
Obviously, you mentioned Patterson. We've not seen an awful lot of him, bar cup game. What do you think about him? And are you on this same boat of he can't be any worse than what we have already, so you might as well stick him in?
You right?
Yeah. Sorry, I think I broke out then.
Yes. Yeah. Go again.
No worries. Whoever's editing it will start again now. In terms of Patterson, have you been impressed with what you've seen? And would you start him now under the assumption he's got to be better than what we've got, which is Seamus Coleman trying to keep pace with the Premier League? Or do you think it's right that we're only slowly integrating him one bit at a time?
Well, I was baffled that he was subbed off after 45 minutes against Bournemouth because he was the only one who was trying to stretch the back line. So that was an interesting one for me. I haven't seen him play apart from that, so that's the only judgment I've got of him, and he did well. I think he's a wing back, isn't he? So you'd like to get forward, get crosses in, stretch. If we're playing the 3 at the back, like you mentioned before, you definitely play. If we're playing the black back 4, I can understand why we'd be a bit more hesitant to play him, but I don't know. He wouldn't look out of place at the moment. Let's just say that. And I think there'd be a lot of goodwill to him because he's a new player and he's something different. But so I maybe would play him on that sort of notion. I would play him. Yeah, at least wouldn't have subbed him after 45 minutes against a non-league team. That's for sure.
Yeah, that sort of.
He didn't do nothing wrong, Connor. He didn't do anything wrong when he was on the pitch.
No,
it wasn't like he was playing some sort of detriment to what we were doing. It was everything else. He did make a couple of good runs, I thought. But
yeah, I thought that would have been a good game to give him his full 90 in. And like you said, I didn't think he did anything wrong.
I thought he did. I thought he was at least decent. If not, he was our best player on the pitch. I thought. So when I saw his number come up, I couldn't believe it. I thought Kenny might have come up because he was the spare part in the back 3 and we were going to a different formation. But this is the other issue I seem to have at the moment, is that every single game lately we're playing a new system. So how is anyone supposed to be able to get any kind of rhythm or consistency going if 1 week we're playing 3 at the back, the next week it's 4-4-2, then it's 4-3-3. There'll no doubt be a different formation against Wolves. I find that interesting, and I would argue that you would, for any ills of any formation, that nothing's ever going to look good if you're changing from week to week, because you're never going to get the ideas and the fundamentals across of any system if you're changing it every 2 minutes. But maybe injuries have played a part, and I don't know. But I would argue that we would need to keep a system between now and the end of the season, and whatever system that is, go with it. And see, and trust them. Maybe it's not your long-term system, but for right now, would it be any? Would sticking with a system be any worse of changing every week?
Yeah, I agree, mate. Obviously, we've mentioned Patterson, and what are your thoughts on Mykolenko? Again, he's a little bit harder to judge as well because obviously the world outside of football isn't brilliant for him at the minute. But from what we have seen of him, what do you think about him?
I haven't seen a great deal of him at Everton. He hasn't really played. Hasn't done badly there, and I probably wouldn't have signed him if I'm being honest. From what I saw before him at Everton in the European stage and in his league, where the bits I've seen, I weren't sure of him. But he's a left-footed left back, and he's the only one we've got. So yeah, he has to play and try and play him into a bit of form. I think that's all you can do. He's here now, and you know, if you've got a left-footed left back playing John Joe Kenny there, it doesn't seem to make much sense to me because he's not a left back. Mykolenko is, so he would start on Sunday for me, and I probably wouldn't drop him from then on in.
No problem. I think that is everything we've got time for today on the What's Wrong with Everton's Defence. I think we've covered as much as we can of where the issues lie. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below your thoughts on Everton's defence and where you think it's going wrong. And stay safe.